My name is Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And together we are
Tony and Sarah.
And this is our Engage Your Passion podcast. So it's the EYP podcast. And today we have a spotlight.
We do. We have Matt Doyle with us all the way from New York. And I am jealous of his view.
Yes. So today our podcast topic is pursuing your passion. So as an arts and entertainment couple, Matt as a professional entertainer in New York on Broadway, we're here to say it takes guts to keep going for it. And we're just going to talk a little bit about that today. So we want to welcome Matt. How you doing?
Welcome.
Hey, how are you guys? Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have to say we love the view. It's like,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know, I live in Jersey City and, you can still like get a view like this for a relatively reasonable price. Our building is insane. We first walked in here and just like could not believe that it was happening. It looks like a green screen behind me. And so it's a small apartment, but we make it work for that view every morning.
Amen.
That's awesome.
No, that's something to wake up to for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's my motivation right there.
Yes.
It's the view. All right.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. So we met through Sarah and I met through a mutual friend, and so we just wanted to kind of take this moment to kind of go through this. So, you're originally from where?
I'm originally from Massachusetts, and then I moved out to California when I was about 11 years old and had my kind of coming of age out in the Bay Area outside of San Francisco. And did all my vocal training in the city in San Francisco with a vocal coach there, and went to a super hippy dippy school in Marin, California that did very, very strange plays and didn't do musicals. They were very pretentious, but it was probably good for me because I was exposed to so many things that I would not have been typically exposed to. Like we did Marat Sade in high school, which is just like an absurd thing to try and conquer when you're a teenager. And it was probably so bad. But yeah, that was my like coming of age experience, was doing these like kind of plays that were well beyond my year, and then doing vocal training in the city in San Francisco.
So from there, what was it the moment in high school, or did you do community theater as well, or was it?
I did, yeah. So I discovered theater because when I first moved out there, I was in this really small middle school that only had like 13 other boys in my grade, and I was really badly bullied. And when I say bullied, I mean like knocked unconscious, beaten up, just extremely, extremely difficult. And I needed to find a community of my own and something that felt safe and something that provided me with like-minded individuals. And I discovered community theater and started doing musicals at this like local children's theater company. And my first show was Oklahoma, I think. And all of a sudden I had friends, I had people that were passionate about, performing and teaching me how magical and amazing it could be. And I discovered something that I was good at a very young age as well, which I think is something that is a common thread for a lot of performers and a lot of actors, is they realize at a relatively young age that they feel almost more comfortable on stage than in their own skin. And that was certainly true for me. And so when I got to high school, I knew I wanted to be, in the drama department and pursuing it on a high school level. And I'd say probably around 14, 15, I started saying, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to do this for my career, and started thinking about what would be next. So I went to school actually in London for it right after high school. And I skipped the university experience. I was supposed to go to Carnegie Mellon, but I deferred and went to Lambda and did 2 years of classical theater out there, and then came back to the city and never went back to university. university, but
Yeah.
that was my experience.
Right. No, I went to Carnegie Mellon, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, Max, my partner, went to Cincinnati, and we always talk about how he couldn't imagine his career without his university experience and without those 4 years. And I was like this opposite end of the spectrum that was dying to get to the city as soon as I left high school. And I almost like forced myself just to do those 2 years in London. But I was so like over eager to get here. And I feel like everyone's got this different journey. And some people say to me, there's no way in hell I could have done that or gotten there at that time. And sometimes I look back and go, maybe Carnegie Mellon would have been a better experience for me. But, it's amazing just like what these schools can provide, and always checking in with what you really, really need before you go off after high school into that next step.
We were just having a conversation about bringing different people together because, like you said, there's so many different perspectives. I danced professionally, and after high school, I didn't go to college. So, but I was awarded all these scholarships, and I was like, no, that's not the route for me. So that's interesting that you said that.
Yeah, and mine is a kind of a mix of two, because I got to go to Carnegie Mellon for a year, then I went to BYU for a year, and then within 6 months of doing that, I was on the world tour. So I got to do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So it's everybody has their own journey, and it's just finding out which ones works for them, obviously. And so that's very interesting. Yeah. That's great. So I'm just going to go through my questions here. So I guess, like you said, when you were 15, 16, you had that light bulb, I call it the light bulb moment or the aha moment. Yeah. And I guess you realized, oh my gosh, this makes me feel, or I get this from this. Can you identify that moment or that period when it was like, okay, this is it?
I always talk about the very first moment, which sounds so silly, especially when you think back on it. But the very first moment I experienced that rush on stage was my first musical, which was Oklahoma. And I was in the ensemble, and I'd never done that. I'd never experienced what that was before. And I'll never forget singing "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" with the rest of the kids and walking out onto stage and just thinking to myself, oh my God, this is the best feeling in the world. This is so special. And I can like distinctly remember the lighting. I remember where I was standing on stage. It's something that has stuck in my long-term memory. And I think it's because it was such a profound moment for me. And in terms of deciding when it was going to be my career, I think that was a little bit slower. There was less of an aha on that, and something that I probably just started to say out loud more and more until I got more confident in it, kind of like when you're a kid and you're saying, I'm going to be this when I grow up. In high school, you start to say it for real, or maybe in college. And it was something that I just started repeating over time. And the better I was at it, and the more I realized that I'm actually a decent actor and I actually have a good voice, and the more I train, the better I get. And that is really exciting, and I'm already good and I'm excelling more and more. I think that's what inspired me and made me recognize that, no, this is something I actually have to pursue. My family was all in the arts. My parents met in art school, and my dad's a designer. My mom's a designer. My sister's an artist. My eldest sister is an artist as well. And my sister went to RISD for Rhode Island School of Design for arts, and she was incredible at that. And I was decent at visual arts, but I didn't excel the way she did. And so I think that was also a part of it. When I started to excel in the performing arts, I was like, okay, cool, I found my thing. I knew it had to be creative, but I needed to know that it was something like that no one else in my family really had excelled at either. So it was my own special thing that I could, love and cultivate. And I think that was a part of it as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome. So you were in San Francisco. Tell us about the journey from San Francisco to the other side of the map.
I think what was good for me is my parents are massholes through and through, is what we call ourselves. They are just Massachusetts, Boston, East Coast mentality. And when we moved out to California, none of us fit in. Like, none of us. I didn't fit in school, and my parents just didn't fit in with the social circles there. I love Northern California. I certainly grew to love it as I, had my coming of age experience there. But in terms of the way people talk, the way people communicate, the way people interact, it is just it is so far from like Massachusetts. We are very blunt. We say what's on our minds. My dad is Irish Italian and loud, and it's just like everyone in San Francisco is just so nice and so easygoing. And I was so relieved to get out of that, because I need the fast pace of New York. I need to be stressed. I thrive off of that. I thrive off of being busy and working myself to the bone. And San Francisco is a city that you escape to, and I think you is the opposite of that completely. So I was so relieved to get to New York, and I think to get to London too when I first got there, because I needed that big metropolitan experience where it was busy and things were happening, and I felt like my life was moving forward, because I've always been this insanely impatient person. So for me, it works. Every now and then I wake up and I think, God, all I want is just to escape to the Bay Area right now and sit on a beach and,
Sitting
have
the
the
dock of the bay.
unbelievable life that we all had at one point. But I love the city, and I knew that I would thrive off of it.
Oh, that's great. So I think we have, so from London, so let's talk about your debut on Broadway. So how did it go from London to Broadway? Was there, hey, I auditioned, I waited tables. What was that for you?
My parents were great, because, it was a very scary thing, I think, for them when I first said, I'm not going to Carnegie Mellon. I'm going to stay in the city and try this. London was amazing. I worked with people. I was the youngest in my class, and everyone else was like 23 to, we had 50-year-olds in my class. It was a graduate program. So we came back and we did a small showcase in the city that kind of led to nothing, which was fine, but I was still very much inspired to stay. And I decided to not go back to school. And my parents said, that's fine, but we're not going to play house for you or pay for you to play house in the city. So you got to get your own job, and you got to figure out how to support yourself if you want to do this. And we'll support you in terms of, not being angry that you haven't gone to school, but we're not going to pay for your life. And so I got a job as a production assistant, working on commercials and TV sets straight out of school. And that basically just meant that I was getting coffee for people. And I worked in that job for about a year. And I was going to open calls every single day and hustling as much as I possibly could. It was very hard because I didn't have an agent, and I was sending, my resume constantly to every festival in the city, everything that could showcase me in any way, shape, or form. And I did a few shows and a few little showcases and play festivals. And I sat on the non-equity benches for 9 hours for Spring Awakening. At the time, you had to use the McDonald's in the Equity building. You had to go downstairs and use the McDonald's bathroom if you wanted to, relieve yourself, because you weren't allowed to use the Equity bathrooms. And I remember sitting there thinking what you always think, like, I'm going to sit here for 9 hours, probably not get seen, and it's going to be worthless. And why am I doing this? But I held out that day and got seen. And they called me back probably about 6 times after that. It was like the limit of how many times you can call someone back until you have to start paying them. And they ended up adding me into the company of Spring Awakening about a month after they opened, because I didn't get the job at first. And then they realized that they did in fact want me, but they couldn't fire anyone that they had hired. So they added the track into the show, and I was the offstage cover for John Groff and several other roles. And that was my Broadway debut. I remember standing on the set of Dawn soap commercial, and I was like holding the monitor, and this jerk of a director, I mean, it is an absurd story, was looking at me, and he was I think I was such a bad PA, and that's why he was grilling me. And he just said to me, "Oh, have you seen Spring Awakening? You're an actor. Yeah, you should see that show. Those kids are amazing." And I was like, "Yeah, I've actually auditioned for it a lot." And I think he was like rolling his eyes at me. And that day on the set, I got the call telling me that I would be a part of the cast, and told everyone that I was just leaving. I just walked off. I was like,
"That's awesome.
Thank you."
Yeah, it's so amazing how things work. It's like, you know, because there's so many, like we were talking just before we started taping. There's, you know, as an artist, you are always going to hear the word no at some point. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, anybody, you're going to hear the word no. It's what you do with that no. How do you motivate yourself and how you stay and that's awesome. I think that's great. Yeah. That's great. Because not everybody not everybody at those, you know, 17, 18, 19 or 20 not everybody has that skin to take that. I mean, that's not easy. That's not easy.
No, and I think, you know, in the theme of your podcast, it's a perseverance that is either built into you or not. And I have so many friends that are so unbelievably talented that got to the city, and I still witness it every single year with the new pool of talent that comes through every year, straight out of school. And some of them are just stars, unbelievable stars, and you can see it. But what they lack is the hard skin, and their first negative experience chases them away so fast, which is either rejection or just a bad experience on a show, or just realizing like, oh, this is just not what I want to subject myself to all of the time, and they go find something that makes them feel better, which is also a beautiful thing. But it takes a certain breed to like stay in this world.
Yeah, definitely.
So when did you realize this was a world you could stay in?
That's taken a long time. I mean, really, it really has. I've learned so much over the years in terms of how to stay in this world. And I have my own issues with mental health. I have terrible anxiety and terrible depression, and I fight it. I've fought that since I was a kid and was diagnosed really young with a terrible anxiety disorder. And I'm always learning how to make this work and how to make it healthy for me and how to be happy in this industry, because it's an industry filled with rejection and ups and downs. And when I first got here and was working pretty nonstop from Spring Awakening into Bye Bye Birdie into Warhorse, I thought it had to be an upward trajectory always. And that if there wasn't a bigger next, then I was failing in some way. And that was just so unbelievably unhealthy for me. And, you know, I've had so many wonderful people that I've worked with over the years really teach me along the way that it is okay to do this, that this is the career. Up and down is the career. Rejection is the career. And you have to learn how to be able to accept that into your life and learn how to adapt with it. And right after Book of Morman, I would say, which was like probably the biggest job I'd had yet, you know, I was replacing Andrew Reynolds, and I was there, and I walked away from 2 more years on that show to go do an original role. And I had all of these shows in the works, and 2 of them were possibly moving to Broadway that year, and 1 of them was absolutely going to the West End, and I was a lead in all of them, you know, so I was leaving for good reason. They were all canceled, or they didn't move. I mean, just one by one fell apart. And I realized that my heart wasn't really in any of them anyway, and that I had been pursuing and chasing after these goals that didn't necessarily make me happy to begin with. And I actually took time away from the business and stopped auditioning for about a year to heal and to also explore, because I'd never explored it, and I had just gone nonstop after this career, if I was capable of other things, and to teach myself that, yes, of course I am. And I started writing comic books. I got a comic book deal and wrote a comic book with a really big webtoon company. And I even got my personal training certification because I loved fitness. And I was just trying to show myself anything that I could possibly do that would support me financially and make me happy in any other way. And then once I did that, it was almost like theater started to come back to me. I got offered an out-of-town West Side Story and got to play Tony. And I thought, well, I should do this now while I'm still young. And went out and did this wonderful production. Yeah. Wonderful production that was like a paint by numbers in the best way of West Side Story. Just like do West Side Story right, with a great cast from New York that just all wanted to do West Side Story at Paper Mill Playhouse. And it was glorious. And the director was so wonderful because he just believed in like, just like making it like, you know, heartwarming, lovely, filling West Side Story. And there was no pressure on it because it wasn't going anywhere. We weren't moving to Broadway with that. It was just to do West Side Story. And it just reminded me, oh God, I have to do this. It has to be a part of my life. It is that important. And I do need to make space for it and just figure out how to balance that, you know, how to make sure that every time that I start doing this again and thinking that the what next is the most important part, I check back in with myself and make sure that I'm doing what I love and that I am doing it for the right reasons. And that kind of just snowballed into wonderful experiences from there. West Side Story led to Sweeney Todd off Broadway. It was the same casting director. And that's how I met Stephen Sondheim, who also knew Marianne Elliott, who was doing Company here in New York. And I had worked on War Horse with Marianne. And it just became a marriage of like meeting wonderful people that believed in me for the right reasons, and I believed in them for the right reasons. And I feel like I'm in a good place right now. And then a world pandemic happened.
Slam dunk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to spend too much time on the pandemic, but how has this been for you? I mean,
yeah. You know, I think everything that I just talked about has prepared me really well for it in a weird way. Is I've just learned a level of patience over the years with my career and why I'm doing it, and the perseverance that I'm able to breathe a little bit. And so much of that I attribute to the fact that we have really wonderful producers on Company that are convinced that we're coming back and doing everything to make sure that we are there on the other side of it. It'd be a shame if we didn't. Our set is there, you know, everything is built. It would be like really weird to just move it out and not do anything with it. So they're making sure that we're there next year, whenever that is. And I think because of that, I'm able to take a breath and say, all right, I've waited so long for this, to literally play myself on stage and to play the most like extreme version of my anxiety and, you know, passion all wrapped up into one song, Getting Married Today. And I will wait for that. And outside of that, we all just have to continue to support one another and communicate with one another, because this is something that is so much bigger than, oh, my dream role didn't happen because of a pandemic, you know, like, which is so absurd, so crazy. But like, what? That was not on my list of possibilities of how this year could go, of course. But it is so much bigger than that. And we're all suffering so much from this and adapting so much from this that I just like, my focus is making sure that I just continue to reach out and communicate with the people in my life and whoever they are, and stay as grounded as possible, because that's the only way that we're going to get through, is if we're trying to just lift each other up and connect with one another. Because what is this? I mean, this is the most profound moment in our generation in terms of things and disasters that we've lived through, and life-changing years and experiences and world-changing experiences. So I'm just trying to listen and be ready and be grateful if we get to come back on the other side of what an unbelievable event that will be, you know, especially with Company, a show about the human connection, and phone rings, door chimes, in comes Company, being with each other and relating with one another and being alive. Like, if we get to come back, and I think we will, that will be the most profound moment of my career. So I look towards that. That's what gets me through.
That's great. I think one thing you said, communication and support. So
yeah,
been trying to instill in our community. And I think we're doing, I mean, everybody's doing a good job for the most part. It kind of led me to this question, because we have some mentors in our life that were without those connections and patience, and someone having patience with us. Who would you say are your biggest influencers? I mean, the people who kind of help, you know, on those dark times, kind of, you know, kind of help keep you going. Were those parents, vocal instructors? Yeah.
Definitely. Well, first and foremost, my parents. My mom's always been incredible with me in terms of dealing with my mental health, because she had to do that from a very young age. When I was being bullied, I was very unwell. And so that was 13 on, you know, she's learned how to just be a close ally in that, and is someone that I can say anything to, especially when things get scary and things get frustrating and things are confusing in this business. And my dad is an artist that, you know, he works in advertising, but he's a designer in an industry that's very, very similar. It's about selling your ideas. It's about selling your design and your vision to brands, you know? And so he's always been such a hard worker and gone after things in such a just driven and beautiful way, and has been unfazed by the rejection over the years. And that's someone that I've really, really been able to watch throughout my life and recognize what it takes to pursue your passion and to pursue your something that you love and believe in. And in terms of the industry, the best people that I've met along the way are the people that have perspective and recognize that, you know, it is so much more than the business side of things and what's next and the next big thing. And some of those people are directors. Marianne Elliott's one of those people. She believes in the craft more than anything. And she was the one that looked at me 10 years ago when we were working on Warhorse and we were close friends. And she asked me, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I think I gave her the most superficial answer. And she said to me, I want you to just think about that and think about the constants in your life and the people in your life, and think about who is in your life that you need in 10 years, and your family, you know, like re-gear where you see yourself in 10 years. Because if it's only your job that you're talking about and only your career that you're talking about, then you're going to be putting yourself into an unhealthy position. And she was right. She absolutely was right. And we talk about that today.
Wow. That's good to have. That's really great to have that type of people in your life that you can connect to and help them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. You've mentioned your mental health, and I think you also talked about your physical health. I'm huge on the two kind of go hand in hand. What, you know, to sustain a career like you've had, what are some habits, especially with dealing with anxiety, that you might be able to share with us as far as what you've done to maintain that?
So the biggest thing, you know, you just said it, physical health is so important in that. And I learned that pretty early on when I first got to this city, especially. I fell in love with fitness for probably the wrong reasons, from a superficial standpoint, I think, when I first got here, because my first show was Spring Awakening and I think I was 120 pounds of just bone. I was the skinniest little wafer thin kid ever. And Michael Mayer told me that the director told me I needed to bulk up. And so I got a personal trainer and started working out to look good and look the part. But from there, what I discovered is someone who struggled so much with my anxiety disorder, that the endorphins and the release that I got from taking care of myself and waking up with more energy and feeling like I could do more, and feeling like I could also do more on stage as a result, and sing better and hold notes better, and everything about my instrument was getting stronger from fitness. That's when I realized just how much a healthy lifestyle needed to be a part of what I was doing. And that's absolutely been a goal of mine along the way and why I fell in love with fitness and even got my certification as a trainer. It's so good for me mentally to have a healthy lifestyle. And also I can't do what I do without it. I cannot do 8 shows a week. I'm not even joking. You think Company is going to be a Park and Bark musical. This freaking show, and we make fun of him all the time. Our choreographer, Liam, has made it impossible. What we're doing on stage in side by side, it's insane. Running around, like I would never, ever be able to hold those notes, especially the last like 10 bars of that song, if I wasn't taking care of myself. And you can't do 8 shows a week if you're not taking care of your instrument. And that's been vital in my mental health and vital in my performance health as well.
No, that's great. No, this is really great. I mean, with the people who listen to this and are listening now and get that, I think that's one thing that I think we've all at some point struggled with. It's it's about let's get up there, but without the physical health, that is where the breakdown will start, and you'll probably notice it first, and then it's what happened to my voice, or what happened to my dancing skills, or what happened to I just can't connect because I'm not focused enough. So I'm just curious because we're she is my fitness queen, and so are you working out like 2-3 times? I mean, she's amazing. So are you like working out 2-3 times a week? Is it cardio? Is it weights? Is it
Well, I'm a little extreme, and I've always been a little extreme. On a casual week, I'm 4 times a week, and that's like when I'm being very casual and in a show that's taking a lot out of me. But typically I work out 6 days a week and have 1 day of rest, and it's cardio and it's strength training. But that's because that's something that is my hour or 2 a day. That is also for, as I said, my mental health as well. If I don't get that day, I usually don't feel well, and that's something that has become my crutch over the years. Trust me, I've talked at length about this with my therapist, like what that means, But I do think that people do need escapes, whether that's yoga or even meditation. I think especially in a business as crazy as this, you need something where you can put all of that energy and that frustration and that confusion and that rejection towards something healthy. And for me, that's been fitness, even if it gets a little unhealthy in terms of how much I'm working out. It's at least a healthier escape than going home and I don't know, escaping in 5 glasses of whiskey or, anything that's going to bring you down and be unhealthy. So I try to keep a good balance with it, but it is rather intense in my life. I know that I can go a little overboard.
I'm the same. I actually put on my schedule every day because, typically you're going to miss one. But he holds me real accountable because if I'm not doing it, he can see my mood like you were talking about. Do you have someone like friends or a relationship in your life to kind of, whether it's in your fitness or other things, to kind of help call you out and keep you on track?
Absolutely. My partner is into fitness as well and very fit and takes care of himself. Right now he's training for a half marathon, but he also knows how to enjoy life like in a way that is so healthy and beautiful and wonderful, and does know how to just relax and eat and enjoy like the good food in life and the good drink in life. And he will always recognize when I'm like going too far or getting too intense or doing things in an unhealthy manner and call me out on it, which is really great. And I think I balance him out as well. I know that that's probably why we work, is we're such opposites in terms of the way we handle everything. I'm really type A. I am the one that cleans and cooks and is, oh gosh, this is such an annoying archetype, but I'm a bit of a Monica from Friends, and Max is just big and happy and celebrates everything. So he's so good for me. And that is absolutely the person in my life that checks in with me a lot and is like, hey, so I don't know if working out 24 hours a day when your knee hurts right now and you're complaining about it and icing it at night is smart. Maybe you should take a break.
Yes. That's awesome.
We have just a couple more questions. Yeah. It's been great, and I appreciate one of the things that I really appreciate just with talking with you is just being open with the mental health challenges and stuff like that. Obviously, you asked for help at some point, and even in our lives, with me, I had to ask for help, and it wasn't easy. For the listeners who are there, because I'm sure we're not the only ones suffering from depression or suffering from mental health or anxiety or or so many other things. I guess to inspire listeners to kind of go, it's okay to have those challenges, but how did you ask for help? What would you suggest to people listening? Young and old, it's like, I have this challenge and, it's okay to ask for help. How did you ask for help? How did you realize, that it was getting in the way of what was going on for you?
For me, especially, I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder and depression at a really young age on a clinical level, and had to have that explained in a time where it still wasn't really recognized that was where it still wasn't being talked about enough. It was probably 2000 when I first got diagnosed, and to have a doctor sit my mother down and say, no, you really need to understand your son has a bad chemical imbalance, and you have to recognize that. For me, when I first found out, even at 13, I was so relieved, I was so relieved because so much of my life, people had just been saying to me, God, you worry too much. God, you're a basket case, what's wrong with you? Calm down. And so to just have someone say, it's okay. We're all over the place. We are all balanced in different ways. And this is just how you're tuned and how you function. And you just need to recognize that so that you can take steps to be more kinder to yourself, and take steps to make it easier for yourself. And so that was a really big moment for me at a younger age. And in this business, it's just been a lesson every day in terms of checking in with my mental health and talking to people about it, and being open about it, because so many people do suffer on a small scale or a large scale, and there's a stigma around talking about our chemical imbalances up here, which is so strange to me because we're completely able to talk about our chemical imbalances everywhere else in our body, and I think it's just important to say, this is something that I deal with, and that was a panic attack, just so you know, and I think the more that you voice them, the more people say, I had a panic attack last year. It was the scariest moment of my life. I cannot believe that you suffer from that, and it just gets the conversation going. And 9 times out of 10, the more I talk about it with people, the more I get a response that's just relief. So many people that I've known over the years have recognized that they need to seek help or that they are struggling with something because of a conversation they had with someone else, and it's only helped them. So that's why I think it's so important to just keep the conversation going and remove the stigma around it, because my God, we are all struggling, especially right now during these crazy, crazy times that are so confusing and so tumultuous. And it's just so important that we communicate.
No, and I think the fact that, like you were saying, you're not alone. We're not alone. When you are open like you are, it's like, oh, yeah, well, I've got that. I mean, I think that's important, especially when you're getting your base in this business, because you'll find out who your friends are real quick.
Oh, absolutely. And what's so funny to me too is that performers are expected to, our brand is expected to be perfect. That's what we present, in the headshot, what we bring into the audition room and everything. Yes, literally, it's like this. I am fine. I am good. You hire me. I will be great. I am perfect. And what's so funny about performers in general is The reason that we're doing this is because of something that's a little off to begin with. Like we are, we're seeking applause, and we're emotional people that want to put that on stage, take our emotions and amplify them and live in these emotional spaces. Like none of us are balanced, and that's why it's so important that actors start saying it and communicating it, because it releases some of the pressure for all of us if we also all just start talking about it and saying, no, I deal with that too. I'm not my Instagram profile, I promise.
Right. Yeah, like that. I'll let you take the last one.
No, so you talked a little bit about it when we were talking about the pandemic, but what do you what do you have next? Going
next? Yeah. I mean, so right now, what's been so wonderful during this time is I think there's a really great support within the community, and within people that care about the community to lift up artists. And I'm so grateful for you guys doing this, obviously, and supporting, inspiring people and making sure that this is still a discussion. So I'm teaching a lot, and I'm doing whatever I can to get by. This is the year of survival. I keep joking about that with my producers whenever they check in with me too. And they're experiencing the same things and trying to figure out how to survive. I'm like, this is the year of survival. We have to get to the other side. And no matter what, I do believe that company will come back. We're supposed to open in the end of March in 2021. That's the goal, is we want to open on Sondheim's 91st birthday. I would imagine, given how things are going, that's probably going to be more April, May at this point. But I do think I'm going to be back up on that stage next year. And until then, I'm writing a new comic book. I'm doing anything I possibly can to survive and to get the creative, blood flowing. And if company doesn't come back, my focus is to make sure that theater comes back, and that I'm a part of that on the other side of this, because it's going to take, a lot of love to make sure that theater is back up on that stage. A lot of money, sure, but a lot of love and a lot of support. And it's going to take the support from the community that believes in it on a level of fandom, and also the community that is in it. It's going to take young actors. It's going to take people coming to the city that are just graduating school right now and terrified of where that industry is going to be. I sympathize with you so much, but I'm also telling you, we need you. If you are just graduating school right now and you don't even know what's going to happen, I know that's horrifying. I completely understand, but please come to the city. We need young talent to lift this industry up on the other side of this and bring it back to life. And so I'm excited about that, no matter what, no matter where I end up. I just to just make sure that I'm bringing the theater scene back in any way I possibly can.
We have one last question for you. And we ask all of our guests, our spotlights. We are big, our theme, our credo is engage your passion, with unyielding determination, And so for you, when you look back on your career from being 13-year-old, being bullied, to London, to living in Boston, to California, to being in these amazing shows, meeting amazing people. What does engage your passion mean to you as an artist?
It means loving what you do. It means cultivating and supporting the love for what you do. Because what's hard about the arts is that somewhere along the lines, no matter what you're in, somewhere along the way, money becomes involved. Commercial aspects become involved, and that changes and evolves how you think about your passion and what you fell in love with to begin with. Because when we do this in high school and we do this in school, it's because we love it, strictly because we love it, because that's what we're able to do. It's not for money. It's not for anything but the fact that we love it. And we are there because our passion is just starting, and we're discovering it, and it's exciting and it's beautiful, and we go to the art school and we get to cultivate it more, and we get to discover more about it, and then we get out into the real world, and the real world, it's reliant on people buying tickets. It's reliant on people showing up. And unfortunately, we're not in a government that subsidizes theater, you know, or the arts. And so for me, it's been about just cultivating my love for what I do over the years, you know, and making sure that every single decision that I make along the way, I check back in with myself and make sure that I love what I'm doing, and that I'm there for the right reasons, and that I'm making the decisions based on the fact that I absolutely love what I'm doing. And also recognize that if I don't love what I'm doing, that, okay, this one's just a job. This one's just going to pay the rent for the next few months, and I have to get onto the next job and hopefully cultivate my love somewhere else. But it's about just recognizing why we're here and why we started it in the first place. Because the real world is not art school. It's not community theater. It's not what we all started out doing, you know? And that's what gets difficult about it becoming a business. It becomes a job, and it becomes work, and it becomes about money. And you have to check in with yourself and make sure that you're still happy and you're still doing it because you truly love it.
Right.
Well, thank you. It's great.
That's so great. Where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Matt F. Doyle, F as in Finnan, actually, Matt F. Doyle on Instagram and Twitter. And also during this time, I'm doing I think I've done 350 cameo videos so far. So I will sing you a song, everyone. It's what I'm doing to get by in these times. But I'm so grateful for the support, everyone. And yeah, I'm there, and I'm teaching lots of classes through so many different platforms, but especially through Artists and Beyond, which is how we met, which is so great. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, the good news is you're gonna get to work with us and do a master class in a couple of weeks. So for all the listeners,
I know it's been so wonderful coaching. I have to say, I was so nervous about doing it in this virtual setting, but we actually talked about this the other day. Is that everyone knows the world that we're in right now, and I've been so impressed with students that I've worked with from different community theaters and theater companies, just being so on board and so game to work virtually and learn virtually, and I'm so grateful for that. It's been really wonderful.
Yeah, and we appreciate you taking the time to help, us and the students and our fans who are going to helping out. So we'll give you guys more information. It'll be in a couple weeks. Matt will be joining us and giving artistic feedback to some submissions, and then parents and directors are welcome to come in and kind of listen to what he has to say to kind of improve the troupe and improve your skills, I guess, and then just obviously some insights, and maybe we'll get a cameo.
Yes, there we go.
I think she just said, thank you so much for talking to us today, Ashley Driver. Break a Leg and Company. I hope that you guys are able to perform. I think we will be, Ashley. I think we're going to be coming back. One of the things just on that, that's been actually a blessing in disguise about Broadway taking such a long break. At first, it was very scary because shows wouldn't have had enough time to get their insurance money and to reestablish how they're going to stay open. And no one's paying rent on these theaters right now. The theater owners obviously understand they're not going to get in another show or kick anything out. So at first it was like every show's going to close, because what can survive with a 3-month break, and how are they possibly going to survive that, because they're going to be paying their rent and they're not going to get their insurance, and it will be a disaster. And now everyone's actually on this very bizarre pause where no one's paying anything and all the shows have gotten new investors and had time to just figure out a game plan. So I think a lot of the season that was up and running before this shutdown will actually have a chance at returning. What we need is ticket sales. So please come see Broadway when we come back.
Well, that's great. Well,
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, I think a couple. Dream role or dream show? Oh man, for the longest time, my dream role was Claude in Hair, and I've aged out of that, I think. So my new dream role was Bobby and Company, but that's not appropriate anymore, because I very much believe that Bobby should be a woman. And I think my dream role right now is to just get to do Jamie again and be up there, because nothing has ever felt closer to home and closer to my heart. And then we have one more in here, Addison. Thank you, Kristen, for that. Addison Anderson said, what is the hardest part about going to open calls every day, and what are some words of wisdom for open calls on the future? The hardest part about it is that you feel like you are cattle. Exactly, like they call it cattle calls for a reason. You're in and out, and a lot of the times you don't feel valued. I have to tell you, though, that it is what made my career was an open call and sitting on the non-equity benches. And there are moments where you walk in and you saying, now I think it's down to 8 bars of music as they're able to ask for, which is literally like 4 words of singing. And so you can feel very, very underappreciated. But I've heard more times than not that someone went to a wicked open call 2 years ago, and Craig Burns just happened to take their headshot and go, yeah, when we need that track, we'll call her back in, and put her headshot in a file. She didn't even realize it, and she got a call 2 years later. I know it feels like it's not valuable and like it's gonna lead to nowhere, but I promise you there is value in going to these calls. You never ever know what's going to happen, and I cannot stress that enough. Ooh, lots of questions coming in. Alyssa, graduated with my associates. I'm looking to pursue musical theater a long time. How do you seek out auditions? And any advice on what to do or not to do? Everyone tells you when you get to the city that you should say yes to everything. I think that's true to an extent. Get to the city and do as much as you possibly can if you want to pursue this. Wherever you go, really, is find out the network of people that you need to know in whatever city that you're working in, and try and do showcases. Try and audition for the festival shows. Like I said, try to go to those open calls any chance that you possibly can, and invite through emails agents to see you in that, or ask the people that you're working with, do you know of a good agency that might take a developmental talent on right now, and can I maybe get their email? It's all about networking to get an agent, unfortunately, when you first start out. And in terms of saying yes to everything, just make sure that the things that you're saying yes to are going to portray you in a positive light. Because I know a lot of kids that say yes to everything when they first get to the city, and they end up in really terrible things that don't look good for them. So it's a balance of the two. You know, it's about networking and hustling like you've never hustled before. And it's also about taking care of yourself and making sure that you are portrayed in a good light. Should I keep going, you guys? You can feel free to stop me.
One more. There's one more.
Okay, one more. Let's see. I think I might have. Addison was the hardest part. Nope. I think I got them all. I think I got them all.
Did you ever struggle with doubt? I have.
Oh, yes.
Always felt strong call performing, but lately been freaking out about the uncertainty of the industry.
Yeah. So things are just how are we working with that? How is that working for us? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I struggle with doubt all the time. And I think the most important thing that you can do for yourself is to be okay, first of all, with the fact that you are struggling with the doubt, because so many of us feel shame in even questioning, that this might be hard and too hard for us. And it's okay. It's okay that this is a difficult business. It's okay that this is really hard. And please, allow yourself that forgiveness first and foremost. I was doing off-Broadway shows from Book of Morman to Company, and that was a 6-year break, off-Broadway and out-of-town shows. And none of them, of course, were supporting me financially in the way that I wanted to be supported and was comfortable with, especially after Book of Mormon. And I made sure that in that doubt and in that period of not knowing what was next, that I figured out a way to explore other avenues and other passions in my life. Not because, I thought I'm about to jump ship and get out of here for good. Not just because of that, but also because you want to be able to make sure that this isn't your crutch in terms of survival. If it becomes your crutch in terms of survival, it's very hard to love. And we're here because we love it. And you need to be able to say, I'm okay in these moments that it isn't happening. So it's okay to have a survival job, to have other passions, to have things on the side that are going to get you through while you pursue this. And I know that gets really hard and the doubt can be so overwhelming, but it is easier, I promise you, if you have other things going for yourself. And actors have to start lifting the shame of survival jobs. I'm hoping that this year really helps that, because everyone's hustling now, and I hope that we all start judging each other less for having a bartending job or writing on the side or anything, that if this isn't what's keeping you busy 24/7, somehow that's failure. It's not, So I do believe that having a healthy investment in other things that we're capable of, because we only live once, and I promise you that we're capable of so much, is really important.
Matt, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
On behalf of Sarah, myself, and AJ and Maddie, and everybody on the team here, a huge thank you for coming on and giving your story and inspiring
thank you so much.
Things of that nature. Just want to remind everybody that it'll be August 22nd, 10:30 will be a masterclass. We will be pushing it out to all our media and emails and stuff like that. And then if you were on the call here, we'll give you a little discount to do that as well. And I guess as always, we just please go for it, engage your passion, and take it to the. If it's not uncomfortable, then keep. Yeah. It's probably not. Your dreams aren't big enough.
Yeah. That is true. That is absolutely true.
Yeah. And so just the last word, what would you like to say to everybody before we sign off here?
Just keep lifting each other up right now. That's my message right now, is stay engaged with one another. Make sure that you're talking to each other, especially the people in your life that you think are the strong one. Check in with them. We all have to get each other through this, because it's daunting and it's unlike anything we've ever experienced. And in order to have that hustle again and to all be pushing each other further on the other side of this, we got to get through it now. So make sure that you're checking in with your people.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. Well, guys, until next time.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you soon. I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And together we're Tony and Sarah. We'll see you guys later.
Yay. Bye.